President Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a new trade agreement today. Many of the details are still being hammered out, but Mr. Trump said he believes it will be the first of many in response to his tariffs. As William Brangham reports, other countries, including China, remain open to negotiating with the U.S., but it's far from clear how many will strike a deal.
This is a very special day because it's Victory Day, World War II, May 8th.
On the 80th anniversary of World War II's Victory Day in Europe, President Trump sought to claim a different kind of victory in the Oval Office.
It's just incredible that that day is the same day that we signed a tremendous trade deal for both countries.
Surrounded by British diplomats, the president announced the rough framework for a trade agreement with the United Kingdom, the first deal since he imposed sweeping tariffs on countries around the world last month.
The deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers.
I'm delighted to welcome you to say a few words.
From a factory in the UK, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer praised the arrangement, which is seen as a political victory for his centre-left government.
I wanted to come to you to announce that we've agreed the basis of a historic economic prosperity deal. And that is a deal that will protect British businesses and save thousands of jobs in Britain.
While Trump and Starmer called the framework a deal, the specific details are unclear. The agreement will leave the 10% tariffs Trump imposed on all nations, including the UK, in place. But it will eliminate existing 25% tariffs on British steel and aluminum. In return, the UK will open market access for billions of dollars of U.S. goods, including beef, poultry, ethanol, and other products. The trade relationship between the U.S. and the UK is far more balanced than with many other countries. By some measure, the U.S. even has a trade surplus. And however this final deal shakes out, it could be more important for the UK than the US. For while the UK is a relatively small trading partner for America, the US is the UK's largest, and it's a critical market for some goods, including automobiles. While the fundamental details are still being negotiated, those gathered today were quick to praise the president's deal-making prowess. From members of his own administration,
he's the closer. He gets deals done that we could never get done.
To Prime Minister Starmer, who phoned in to the White House event.
I want to thank you for your leadership on that, Donald, and for the way in which your team have negotiated this.
But amid the praise from one ally, threats of retaliation came from another. The European Union announced today that more than $100 billion worth of U.S. goods could be hit with tariffs if trade negotiations fail. The list includes agricultural products like meats and bourbon, along with manufactured goods like airplane and car parts and more. All this ahead of talks around the much bigger trade war between the U.S. and China that are happening this weekend in Switzerland. It comes after weeks of Beijing resisting talks, saying it won't kneel down to a, quote, bully. Today, the president said he'd consider lowering the 145% tariffs he levied on China if the talks bear fruit.
We're going to see right now, you can't get any higher. It's at 145, so we know it's coming down. I think we're going to have a very good relationship.
So as the Trump administration continues these negotiations with trading partners, those higher tariffs are already having real impacts on American businesses and their supply chains. Joining us now is Ryan Peterson. He's the founder and CEO of Flexport, a supply chain management firm. Ryan, thanks so much for being here. Many of your clients are small American businesses. How are they responding to these higher tariffs?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's tough for these businesses. The ones that are buying from China, I'd say, hit with a mix of paralysis and panic. They don't know much what to do. So a lot of them just paused importing goods from China. We see a huge drop off. In fact, a 60% decline in ocean freight from China to the U.S. since April 9th when this went live. But businesses can't just pause. I mean, at some point they have to sell products in order to make money and pay their employees and stay in business. So that's where the panic comes in, and they're looking for some relief.
So that 60% pause is your client saying, in the face of these tariffs, we're going to stop our orders from China temporarily and try to figure out what on earth is going on.
Yeah. Now, there's also some degree of scrambling. So those who are continuing to ship goods, a lot of them have moved cargo into what's called a bonded warehouse. So this is a warehouse that allows you to defer your payment of customs duties. So you don't have to pay the tariffs until the goods leave the warehouse. So there's a lot of kind of people putting goods into storage, expecting that duties are likely to come down. And when they do, they'll be able to pay that lower rate. So there's, businesses are creative. They find a way. But in mass, you see a 60% decline in shipments. So a lot of people are much more just kind of saying, let's just sit this one out and see what happens.
And what is the impact on U.S. ports? We know those are a critical artery for traffic in and out of the United States. What's happening on American ports?
Yeah, so the first to be hit is the West Coast, just because the transit time from China to the West Coast is so much shorter than to the Gulf and the East Coast. So those have already seen a big drop off. We've seen about a 35% decline in LA Long Beach in number of containers being unloaded this week versus over the prior weeks. So that's fewer workers needed to unload ships. The West Coast Ports Union has kind of come out and said in opposition to the tariffs, fewer truck drivers are going to be needed, warehouses downstream. It's going to flow through the whole logistics industry.
The president was asked about this at the White House today. A reporter said, what about the slowed traffic at American ports? And he seemed to imply that it was a good thing, that it was somehow less of us getting screwed over, is I think how he put it. I take it your clients don't quite see it the same way.
No, definitely not. And the reason you do global trade, the reason you buy stuff overseas is it makes your company better off. And no one's compelling you to force you to buy goods. You buy it because you can make money doing that. And so it's really hurting these businesses, American companies that buy goods overseas, causing them to make a lot less money and hurting, their ability to hire people. So yeah, it's definitely sad to see that. The president came in with promises of deregulating things, creating a kind of a very pro-business environment, but these tariffs have done the opposite.
And what has the impact, as far as you can tell, been on consumers and the prices they pay?
Thus far, we've seen a big increase, around a 10% increase in prices for stuff that's sold on e-commerce, sold online. And that's already taken place. You'll see it. You go to buy things, you'll see higher prices. In fact, kind of famously, Amazon tried to show those higher prices and got called out by the president. They didn't like that. But you are seeing that companies, whether they show it or not, whether they break out the import duties on the checkout page, they are raising prices already.
There was what's called the de minimis exemption, and it was suspended recently. Can you explain what that is and what the impact on that has been?
Yeah, so that's actually been one of the biggest impacts so far. So the de minimis exemption says that anything imported into the country that's less than $800 in value can be imported duty-free, as long as that item is being sent all the way to the final consumer, to your house. And so that was ended on May 2nd for goods from China. And that's a huge impact. There's almost 4 million packages per day being imported and under the de minimis exemption. 70% of those are coming from China. And so a lot of companies now, it's not all that it's being shipped from China. A lot of companies actually had put their fulfillment centers in Mexico and in Canada. And so if you ordered from a lot of e-commerce websites, your goods are actually being shipped from Mexico to your house directly, and they're being shipped duty-free. So that's a huge impact. Those companies now have to pay duties like everybody else. And that's a big part of this price increases that you're seeing, especially in the apparel sector, people buying fashion, buying clothes. A lot of that was there. There's some famous Chinese e-commerce brands that were doing this, but a lot of American companies were using this as well.
You have likened tariffs to an asteroid coming at the American economy. Where are we, in your view, of the trajectory of that asteroid? Is it coming? Has it hit? Is it about to hit?
I think it's still coming. I think we're at the point where if the administration changes course or starts to de-escalate on these 145% duties from China, which all indications are that they will do that. But it's a question now of how low do they bring it and how fast, when do they do that? So there's still time. There's still, if they were to change course quickly and bring the tariffs way down, I think we wouldn't have to worry about this. But every week that goes by, you increase the chance of businesses failing in mass. And, some of the rumors are that they'll bring it down to call it 50% duty on China. Well, that's still really extreme. And I think a lot of companies will still be at risk of failure there. But it's very hard to know what's the right duty level. We've seen duties on rest of world come in around 10%. During this current pause, it's 10%. That seems like a non-issue. The market's been able to absorb that. Volumes, in fact, from rest of world into the United States are up about 5% since April 9th when this was announced. So it seems like companies are okay with the 10%. So somewhere between 10 and 145 is where the system seems to really break.
All right, that is Ryan Peterson, the CEO and founder of Flexport. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.